So far we discussed that how Renaissance movement was happening in European continent and what were the circumstances under which the Renaissance movement took place. What were the factors behind the Renaissance movement? We also discussed the debate within the Christianity. Now we will discuss some more factors which were very important in the Renaissance movement, and now we will talk about the role of the science of that time. So first of all we will discuss about the Copernican Revolution. The turning point in European science came with the work of the Copernicus, and he was also a contemporary of Martin Luther. Martin Luther was the person who started the Reformation movement in Christianity, and Copernicus was also contemporary to him. Christians had believed that the earth was a sinful place, so this was the argument which was given by the church, that earth has become a sinful place. As a result, the heavy burden of the sin has made it immobile, means it is not moving and it is static at one place, because it has having a burden of the sin which is committed by the people who are living upon it. The earth stood at the center of the universe, so they used to believe that there is earth-centric world, means earth is the center of the world, and all the planets including the sun moves around the earth. So all the celestial planet or celestial bodies moves around the earth, not earth moves around the sun. So this was the argument which was given by the church. Now Copernicus made some experiments and he asserted that the planet including the earth rotate around the sun. So he was also of a different opinion. The church believed that there is earth-centric world, but Copernicus used to say that it is sun-centric world, and he also wrote his theory in a manuscript, and the name of that manuscript was De Revolutionibus, means the rotation, and it was to be printed, but due to the afraid of the opposition of the church, because church clergy would be the opponent if he would have published such kind of document, because he was criticizing the notion of the church, so he was not having that courage to publish the document and he stopped the publication. Later on, when he was on his deathbed, when he was about to die, he handed over that document to one of his disciple, and his name was the Joachim Reticus. Later on he published that document and people came to know about a different idea which was given by the Copernicus, that the world is not earth-centric, rather the universe is sun-centric. Now what other development took place in the science? The difference between the heaven and earth was bridged through the writing of astronomer like the Johannes Kepler. So he was another scientist who made new discoveries, and second was the Galileo Galilei who made the telescope. They also proved the same idea which was proved by the Copernicus. The theory of the earth as a part of sun-centered system was made popular by the Kepler in his book, and the name of his book was the Cosmographical Mystery. So Kepler also proved the same opinion which was expressed by the Copernicus. Galileo transformed the notion of the dynamic world in his book The Motion. So this was a book which was published by Galileo Galilei, and he also proved the same kind of opinion which was proved by the Kepler as well as the Copernicus. The revolution in science reached its climax with the theory which was given by the Isaac Newton, and his theory was the theory of gravitation. That gravitation pull has made all the planet on a particular place and they move in a particular way of their revolution. So this was made popular by the Isaac Newton. So these were the scientists who played an important role in proving that the church is wrong, and the theory which was given by these scientists were quite better than the theory which was given by the church. So they were right, and they proved all these things with the help of their experiments. Now reading the universe. The work of these thinkers showed that knowledge as distinct from belief. So they told the world that knowledge is different from the belief. Knowledge is something which can be proved, but belief cannot be proved. So knowledge is better than the belief, because knowledge can be proved with the observation and experiment. So the theory which was given by the Copernicus, that could be proved by the later scientist with the help of the experiments. But belief which was given by the church that the universe is earth centric, that could not be proved with the help of any experiment. So knowledge is better than the belief. It was proved by the scientists of that time. Historians were to label this new approach to the knowledge of man and nature of scientific revolution. So historians calls this period as the period of scientific revolution, because different scientific theories were given by the scientists at that time. Consequently, in the mind of the skeptic and non-believer, those who did not believe in the church, God began to be replaced by the nature. It means they now did not believe in the God, rather they believed in the nature, and they believed that the nature is the source of all kind of creation. Even those who retained their faith in the God started talking about a distant God. So those who were the believer of the God, they believed that God is there, but he is not directly controlling the world as it is proclaimed by the church. And different societies were also set up at that time, like the Paris Academy. This kind of beliefs were also popularized by these academies, which was set up in 1670, and the Royal Society of London, which was also set up in 1662. They also tried to spread the idea of the scientific knowledge, and they used to criticize the dogmatic belief which was given by the church without any experiment. Now we will discuss the epilogue of this chapter, that was there a European Renaissance in 14th century or not. So different writers have expressed their opinion about this period. Some believed that it was a Renaissance period, whereas some categories of the writer of this time, they believed that this is not a period of Renaissance. Modern writers like Peter Burke of England, he suggested that Jacob Burckhardt, who termed this period as the period of Renaissance, is not true and it is far from the truth. He believed that the term implied the period as the rebirth of the Greek and Roman civilization and the substitution of the pre-Christian world for the Christian world by the artists and scholars of that period. Both these arguments were exaggerated and oversimplified. So he believed that there was no such sharp difference between the pre-Renaissance period and the Renaissance period, so we cannot call it a Renaissance period. By terming the Renaissance as a period of imaginative creativity and the Middle Age as a period of darkness is easy generalization. He believed that there was no such kind of dark period, and Renaissance was not a period of imaginative creativity. Rather, there used to be imaginative creativity earlier also. So this is just a overgeneralization or easy generalization. The element of the Renaissance were already seen between 12th and 13th century. So before 14th century there used to be a period Renaissance. There was also a lot of changes. So that should also be included in the period of Renaissance. Even in the 9th century France, same type of literary and artistic effort flourished. So this kind of movement also took place in the country of France before the 14th century. So these kind of happening also occurred earlier. So this period is not a Renaissance period, rather this is also the same kind of period which happened earlier. The archaeological and literary finding of Roman culture show that the technological skill in Asia had contributed the cultural change of the Europe. It means the technology already flourished in Asia, and that also contributed the people of Europe for a cultural change. So we cannot call it totally a Renaissance period which happened in Europe, rather it was happening all around the world. The expansion of Islam, we have read about the Islamic Empire. Mongol invasion by the Genghis Khan linked Asia and North Africa with the Europe in trade and learning skills. So the ideas exchanged between East Asia and West Asia and Europe. Europe along with the Roman and Greek got knowledge from India, China, Arabia and Central Asia. It means the knowledge was also developed in India, China, Iran, Arabia and Central Asia, and these ideas were also borrowed by the European people. So all modernization took place in Europe. That is far from the truth. Many ideas have been taken from these countries where this kind of development already took place. The Asian contribution were soon forgotten with the writing of the history from the Europe-centered viewpoint. So he believed that the history which we are talking about, the Renaissance period, that has been written from the European viewpoint. So other countries have been forgotten and their contribution was also forgotten. So the happening which was right now occurring in Europe, that had already been happened in other countries, but that has not been described in the European Renaissance period by the historian of that time. An important change that did happen in this period was the gradual separation. So the most important thing which took place in the Renaissance period was only that public and private life of a person was distinguished. Means whatever the matter used to be there in public life, that was separated from the private life. Here man was not known by his birth, rather he was known by the merit which he was having. So public and private life was totally separated. And by 18th century, in political sense, all men had equal political rights. So there was no discrimination on the basis of the birth as it used to be there in the medieval Europe. So that change took place in this period, but totally everything was changed in this period. That is far from the truth. Europe, which was united earlier, now got dissolved. So this is also an important happening of that time. There used to be a Roman Empire, but later on it was dissolved into some states, and these states were known by their own identity, not by the one empire, but rather they started to be known by their own identity on the basis of their common language and common culture. So we can say that the Europe was changed completely in this period, and before the Renaissance period there used to be a dark age that was only oversimplification and exaggeration. So there was changes in this period also, but these changes were like the changes of to distinguish between the private and public life. Also the man started to be known by his merit, not by the birth, and birth-based discrimination also reduced in this period, and modern development in science and technology also took place. So these were the changes which took place in the Renaissance period. So we can say that Renaissance period resulted in a lot of changes, but before that there used to be a dark age. That is also far from the truth, because we have already read about the contribution by the Arab. So Arabs and other countries also made a lot of contribution in this period, which development already had taken place in different parts of the world, including India and China, and that development took place in Europe much later. So before the period of 14th century was also a period of development, and it was not entirely a dark age. So to call this period only a Renaissance period is oversimplification and exaggeration according to the modern writer like the Peter Burke. Thank you.